Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track podcast. Two fabulous guests with us this morning talking about a subject I really love. So first of all, we've got Matt Bradney from Atrium Fitness. How are you, Matt?
I'm very well. Thank you for having us on, Ryan.
Absolute pleasure. And Gaz Brown from Forces Recruitment Solutions. How are you, Gaz?
Very good, Ryan. Again, thanks for having us. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure. Now, I guess probably a good place to start would be, before we jump into the conversations, just to give a bit of a background of where you guys have come from. Obviously, we've got two legends here, so we might we don't want to take up too much time. But do you want to give the listeners just a bit of an understanding of what you guys do and what's brought you to now?
So we both have very, 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 very different backgrounds, and I'll let Gaz explain his a minute. But he's a military guy. He's a member of my gym, which was quite nice. We've known each other for quite a long time. My background, I've been doing this 30 odd years now. I know I don't look old enough. I hear that quite a lot. Thanks, Gaz. But I've been doing this about 30 years now. I started off my career at Life Fitness. A long time ago, and I've been doing gyms ever since. So I have a little gym in Ely. She's an old girl. She's lovely. She keeps me young.
Not quite that little though. Let's be fair, Matt. It's a proper health club in Ely. So don't put yourself down on that. Yes, it's an old club, but it's a beautiful.
She's been around a long time. 92 she opened. So
wow,
so the club's actually older than most of the staff except me. So it's still going, and it's nice. We sit with around about 1,300 members, so it's a nice club. And Gaz has been a member for a long time, not quite the full 30 odd years, but he's been there for a long time, and that's how we met. So Gaz.
So I'm ex-military musician, a Gulf War veteran, left many years ago. Most of the time since I left, I've been spent in recruitment. So I run a forces recruitment agency, placing veterans into work, into all industries. And Matt and I have been training together for, we've known each other for best part of 20 years, and we've been training together for probably about 10 years.
Wow.
And we ended up converging when I got into a deeper level of study around behavioural science and psychology and things like that as part of my recruitment business. And I'd been banging on about how good the behavioural stuff was for quite a while to Matt, and they said, "No, it's all a load of bollocks. Don't want anything to do with that."
Done it before.
And I said, "Well, how have you applied it once you've been assessed?" They said, "Well," I said, "I haven't." I said, "Well, that's exactly the point." I said, if you're gonna do assessments like that, there has to be a point behind it. You have to be able to measure it, and it has to make a difference in your business. And I said, everything that I've done at FRS has really made a difference in the teams I've worked with. He said, "Okay, I'll do one of your profiles and see how I got on." So we did a profile, and he said, "This is quite good. It absolutely nailed me." He said, "Can you come in and do my team?" So went in and did the Atrium Fitness team, and there was a moment in the session where I said to one of the ex-military PTs, I said, "Right," I said, "John, I'm a new member. I've just come into the gym. How are you going to train me? What are you going to do with me?" He said, 30 minutes on the treadmill, increase the intensity, absolutely destroy your muscles, get you onto some interval training after that on the bike. I'm going to hammer you for 15 minutes on that. You're going to be crying when you come off that. I'm going to get you on the free weights, and you're going to be in absolute pieces." I said, "John, that's amazing. That's exactly how I like to train. Haphazard, get in there, get straight on with that. I love that." And I turned to one of the other PTs, and I saw her face go like that. I said, "What's that face?" I said, "You don't like to train like that." She said, "I would hate that." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because I like everything structured and ordered." She said, I like to know when I'm doing things, and it's all to a plan. Yeah. So I'm not built like that. So I thought that's really interesting. We had a little moment where we looked across at each other. I said, "There's something there." Because people train in different ways. This isn't about the skill. It's not about training the muscle. It's about how people train. Some people like to know everything about the routine. Some people like it to be time bound with a little bit of structure. Some people don't care, and other people like to do classes and do a community thing. So I thought, if people like to train in a different way, then is there a model there that we could shape for the club and for the industry that recognizes that. So I asked the PTs, I said, have you ever done a PT session with somebody and you've never seen them again? Every hand goes up. I said, what do you think that is? They didn't know. And I'm willing to bet that what's behind that is a lot of people just not being trained in the right way. So if for example, you're a detail focused person and you need to know everything about the routine and why, and you don't get that from your PT, you're probably not going to go back. Yeah. You're just going to think that PT is not for me. Imagine the power of knowing that before you actually go into your session. The byproduct then of what we can do, pushing that forward a little bit, is even more powerful, because it's how a gym communicates with their members. Because people like to be communicated with in a different way, and I think as an industry, it's, you know, everything's about ultra personalization these days. If you can tune into your members, understand them, engage with them in the way that they want to be engaged with, rather than just blanket emailing everybody with the same way, the same message, that's not as powerful. So I think what ultimately sits behind this could be a great retention tool to help fitness clubs retain more members for longer. So that's what's all behind it.
100%. Because what's really interesting is, and obviously you went into to do Matt's team, and big organisations. Because I work for Marriott Hotels, Homes Place, places like that, and we quite often did personality profiling. I can't remember the name of the ones that we did, but we quite often did it, and it was great to see how the team dynamics worked and how people like to learn, how people like to interact, whether they were I think it's Balbin, isn't it, that does the plant and or complete to finish and all that. And it's interesting to know that, but none of them ever went, okay, how do we take this theory in terms of what is brilliant within our team that's allowing us to function as a really successful team into the members? Because surely that transpired. Now, that was at least 15 years ago, the last time I did that. Insights, I think, was the last one I did. Yep. And but no one has ever gone. I mean, we've been trained in sales. When I was at Homes Place, we did disc training in sales to understand the type of personality you're dealing with, so the buzzwords and everything else. But the reality is, once it got past the sales process, there was nothing on the PT floor, nothing to understand their motivations or how they want to train. So I think this is really fascinating subject.
Absolutely spot on. That's exactly how pretty much every other model works. You know, you do a bit of training, you get some insight, you look at the team report and you think, oh, that's you. I get that. Now I understand that about you. And then you do absolutely nothing with it afterwards. So the value, the follow-up, the monitoring, the measurement, how you can make improvements going forward just doesn't happen. This is why this is different. We're upscaling all of that stuff to make sure that when we do some coaching with clubs, they get their members. The members connect with them in a better way. And when the member walks out the club at the end of a day, they think, I don't know what it is about this club. This is different. The club just gets me. They understand me. And if that can help you to, you know, if you're losing, like many clubs do, 50% of the members year on year, if you could halt some of that and make that you're only losing 25 to 30% rather than 50%, the financial impact on that on any club is massive, and I don't see why that can't be possible. When
5%, Gaz, makes a huge difference. We did some research and some maths on it, and just reducing your attrition by 5% adds thousands, absolutely thousands, tens of thousands to your bottom line. It's incredible. So if you can suddenly change it to 25%, you're suddenly onto a winner. Absolutely. I guess from my point of view is because obviously most of this is behind the scenes staff type stuff. How do we then because we're not now dealing with, I don't know, 5, 10, 15, 20 people. We're suddenly dealing with, like at Matt's club, 1,200. How do we do that on a scale that allows us to make it a success?
Good question. Glad you asked it. So the issue that we had was when we do all the training things before and all these profilings was there was a whole bunch of questions. Someone had to sit down for half an hour to 45 minutes, answer all these questions, really give it some deep thought. And of course, members don't want to do that. Members want to get in and just get on with it, and particularly new members who are, they're a bit frightened, they're a bit scared of clubs, and it's our job to make them feel a bit better. So what we've done is we narrowed this right down, and we built 10 questions, no more than 10 questions, so we can get a feel for their energy and how they like to do things, and how, you know, so we can understand them on a deeper level. So it's simple, 10 questions. It's no different than filling out a fitness profile when they first come in to have a look around or whatever it is. It's really, really quick. And of course, the member's not massively interested in their own result. What they want to know is, what's in it for me? How am I going to get stuff out of this? This is what the member wants to know. So we'll give them a little bit of information and show, this is what your energy is, and this is what kind of person you are, etc. Blah blah blah. But more importantly, this is how we're going to communicate with you, and this is this kind of messages we're going to talk to you about, and this is the kind of training sessions you're going to like. You know, different people love classes. Some people, you know, they're the ones with the headphones in that go in the gym. No one doesn't talk to anybody. How do we talk to them so that because they're not the same people that go into the classes and hang around for half an hour afterwards, and you know, you try to kick them out the studio because there's another class starting. The ones that we you know, that don't speak to, they're the ones that we really want to get to, because the social animals, they stay forever. You know, they're not a problem. It's the ones that you don't know their name because they come in, they don't speak to anyone, and we're not talking to those in the right way. And that's what I got really excited about with Gaz when we started talking about this. So I remember us over a coffee and we started talking about the communication side. I went, that'd be brilliant. Very similar, like if you're going to do a price increase, we just send out one blanket message to the whole membership saying, sorry, got to put the prices up. Oops. But what if we had 8 different messages we could send out to the type of person they are? So you could say, all the social animals, well, we're going to do this for you, we're going to have all these events, we're going to do all that sort of stuff. But for the people that aren't like that, the people that like the detail, well, let's just give it to them. Let's give them all the detail and say, this is why, you know, this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. You know, my wife is very, very different to me. She likes loads of detail. Me, I don't read any detail. I just need to know, am I going to enjoy it? Yep, fine, I'm in. Whereas Fiona's like, she reads everything, tell her everything, and then she'll make her own decision based on that.
Don't we know
that's
it?
What this is all about. Yeah, and absolutely, we all know it, all of us sitting here. But that's what this is all about, is understanding the people and communicating with them. And I think the communication side of it from a club perspective is absolutely enormous.
Well, like a classic example, Matt, if you do a sales tour, and I'm only going back to DISC. I mean, yours is a lot more detailed than DISC. Obviously, there's simply 4 personalities, but we're always taught, if you get a D-style personality, which is like your politician or your CEO and that sort of stuff, they'll come in and go, I just want to have a look around, see whether it's right for me. Now, if I walk over and go, we're going to have so much fun, they're turned off instantly.
Yep.
It's not what they want. They want to come in and go, what results can I get? How are you going to do it? What services are available? That's all they need. They don't need all the bullshit, fluffy. Now, I'm a natural eye. I'm naturally, as you can tell with my mannerisms. So I'm going over there all excited. I'll turn that person off straight away. Now, if we're doing that with communications as well, like you say, even as simple as the price increase, we're going to do all this. We're going to have great. The guy's looking at it going, do you know what? Nah. I'm off. I'm gonna go join. Yeah, I'm gonna go join somewhere else like the CrossFit or whatever. They're just gonna beast me and do whatever, because that's what I want. The same as if you get someone who's quite shy by nature, and you're doing the same thing and you're really excited. Well, they don't want it. It's not, and you've got to understand that, because that's how you scare people or put people off the product. Just because we're fitness doesn't mean everyone wants that bouncing off the wall type sunshine person.
Absolutely. And our industry is full of them, you know.
Oh, absolutely.
Because naturally, if you're a gym instructor, you need to be a people person, right? You've got to be a people person. But I've had trainers over the years that aren't the most people person. They've been a bit quieter. They've been a bit, and I haven't perhaps treated them in the right way, because I've got, just go and teach classes and just let it get on with it. Jesus Christ. And the classes are crap, but they're really good on a one-on-one basis. And, you know, it's the old adage of asking a goldfish to climb a tree and all that kind of stuff. You know? It just can't do it. So once we understand the team, but it's the same with the members as well. And that's the missing link in the whole thing. We always talk about touch points, but if we're making the touch points, which sounds a bit odd, if we're not touching them right, you know, you've got to touch them in the right way that they might enjoy. Haven't you, Gary?
Well, you know, I'm really big on the client journey. in terms of obviously we need to have these touch points, whether those through automations or whether they're through the Fab5 program we do and stuff like that. But you've got to have those touch points. But like you say, if you can really then narrow that down and go, actually, these touch points need to be different for the different member. I guess the biggest key with that is going, okay, we've got 1,200 members now. How do we identify them? Yes, we've done the check sheet and have answered some questions for us. How do we get the staff then to identify it as they're coming into the club and stuff like that? I guess that's potentially
absolutely, and that's for us to figure some of that stuff out. We've already done some of that work on that, on working with integrating with some of the different CRM systems, so that it would pop up when they come in, and we know what kind of person that is, so we know that kind of stuff. But behind the in the communications, the messages that are going out automated and all that sort of stuff, it's not about having the same message all the time going out to all the people. It's about having 8 different messages to 8 different types of people, and that's what we're for. That's what we would set up.
And getting the PTs and the clubs on board as well. You know, once people start to recognise they're getting a little bit more of what they need, rather than a profile that faces outwards, they start to turn and face inwards and communicate better with each other, and that's where the power of this starts to come in. Then when they're inducting a new member, they're talking to them in the right language, because the members spent a little bit of time doing the profile. It's all part of the induction process, and the member sticks with that club then. Or at least, you know, somewhere between the 5 and 25%, but it makes a difference to the club, and it has an impact on the earning potential of the PTs as well. You know, they're getting more PT sessions because they know how to speak to and engage with people, and they're building the right kind of programs. They would do the skill stuff anyway because they're skilled PTs, but this is about how they explain the program and how it's designed, and so that it works with a member, and they don't lose people after one session.
But it's like you said before, some people want the details. So I know some amazing PTs that are technically absolutely stunning. They know everything about training. They really know their stuff, but they're not personality people. And the last thing you want to do then is put a really bubbly individual who doesn't want all that. They don't want to have their squat analysed to the nth degree. They don't want, they just want to go in and train, have fun, get some results. They don't actually care what planning's gone behind it, what actually they don't. They just want to come in. I've had plenty of clients like that my job is to design it, but their job is to have fun and achieve their goals. Now, if you're a very detailed person and you're giving that person all this information, one, it goes like that because they ain't listening to you, but secondly, it's boring. They just want to come in. We know clients that want to talk about their kids, their grandkids, their holiday, their marital problems, whatever it is. They almost come in for therapy as much as they do the training. And if you can identify that's the personality and that's the style of interaction they want, the actual training itself becomes a very small part, because we're all great trainers. We can deliver that. But it's how you then manage that personality with you, because obviously they're spending a lot of time with you. So I think it's a vital thing to understand. And as a PT, it probably took me 3 to 5 sessions to really understand that person as an individual. But if you've got something like this, you've actually got it before they start.
Right. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. And also from the club's perspective as well, when we're talking about selling them stuff, there's secondary spend. So there's secondary spend in the club. How do we get those messages out on people buying products? What kind of products would they like? That kind of stuff. Are we selling to them in the right way? We just, again, send out one message to everybody saying, buy my stuff. Instead of saying, right, let's talk the right language for this person and saying, well, here's some detail about this stuff. Or if they're going to send it to me, hey, it's shiny. Do you want to buy it? And I go, yeah, of course. There are certain, Gaz and I laugh about this all the time. When you go on websites that are trying to sell things, and it's this endless website that's all the way down, and there's loads of reading, and you're like, yeah, they've got me on that. It's new. We'd have bought it right at the top. Put the buy button at the top. I'm in.
Absolutely.
Whereas Fiona, she would go all the way to the bottom because she needs all the detail. And it's the same as secondary spend. Do we tell members why they should be having protein shakes, etc.? You don't need to tell me because I'll just have one. Hey, do you want this? Yes. But she needs to understand all the different details and why and what the benefits are and all that kind of stuff.
For me, does it taste nice? Does it taste nice? Absolutely, I'm in. Or does it taste like chalk? I don't care what it. If you're telling me it works, I'm in as long as I can.
So us three, we're dead easy to sell to. Really, really easy, because it's just, hey, it's new. Yeah, it'll be good for you. Whereas it's reaching those hard to reach people and getting the communications out right. And secondary spend, we do that so poorly in our industry. We just put stuff up. We don't send messages out. We don't do any of the right stuff in that sense. And I think we could definitely improve that by getting the messaging correct for the person.
But I think this also fits in, guys, with I know there's a massive movement to wellness, and as an industry we're trying to integrate with NHS. I know that's more on the leisure trust side and whatever, but I think there's huge value in this, to understand what drives that person to come and train, because we all know it could be anything from I want to lose weight to I want to gain weight to I need relaxation, or it's all for mental health, or there's so many different things in there that we just take for granted. Someone's joining, they want to train. Let's be honest, 90% of the people that train don't actually want to come in and use the gym. I know that sounds a really weird thing to say, but the actual exercise probably actually isn't that enjoyable to them. It's hard work, it's sweaty, it's whatever, but they've got a goal. And if we know their personality and how they like to receive information and how they like to be treated, we can then start changing that mode to go, actually, no, they don't necessarily enjoy the session as such, but it doesn't mean they can't enjoy being at the club, because of the way we're interacting and providing a service that suits their personality.
Absolutely. This morning I've been on reception for a couple of hours, and every single person that come in, I say to them, "Oh, good morning," all that sort of stuff. Say, "Have fun," and you'd be amazed how many people go, "Oh, thanks," or some people go, "Oh, yeah." Great. And it's just how we, so that's that point you make there. It's making them feel, and as Gaz said right at the beginning, there is that we just understand them, we get them. We know that you don't really want to do this, but we'll try and make it as easy and as possible, as fun as possible for you.
And just to flick onto the science a bit, Gaz, in terms of the sort of thing, obviously I've done Belbin, Insights, DISC, all those sorts of things. What's the science behind it in terms of what you guys are using? Because obviously there's loads of different ones out there. How are you guys looking at it? Because obviously we've narrowed it down to sort of 10 questions, which makes it a little bit more difficult for you guys to get a really detailed. But obviously you've done it well, so you found a way of working around that to still get the information. So I guess it's just to get the guys watching to maybe understand a bit of the theory behind it.
Yeah, it's we've tried to find a balance between having enough detail to get the right energies, the right profile type, and not to overload it. Something like a Belbin is it's quite meaty. MBTI or something like that. There's some heavy profiles out there and some really expensive profiles. We're trying to make this really cost effective for a club to be able to take up. I mean, if you're trying to do Belbin as a club, tens of thousands of pounds to do that. Wow. It's just not practical. And you're never going to get something like that off the ground. And trying to get members to do Belbin, which will take you 20 to 30 minutes to complete a profile, they're not going to invest that time. So you need enough data points to be able to make it accurate enough to make a difference, without overloading them with 20 to 30 minute assessments, because they just won't do it. So if it's a 5-minute assessment that asks you Saxon questions, fairly basic questions without getting too heavy. So some of the models, when you look at some of the questions coming out, they're board level tools, and it's not designed for your average gym goer. So you need to be able to play to your audience and get people who aren't going to look at question 1 and say, "I don't understand that. What does that mean?" If you've got to ask that, it's the wrong question. Get the questions right, and then spend a little bit of time with them at induction, just engaging with them. And for the people that are already members, just send that out and start getting them used to it. Because when people start talking about it, it's shared on the boards and stuff like that, and you talk about it in classes, more people will start doing it. And I think if it's built into induction, then that's just a matter of keep turning that over. And then we will have touch points with the gym owner or the club manager to make sure that it's working. You know, that's really important to us, I think, is making sure that if you're investing in this, that it's going to work and it's making a difference. It's actually having an impact on your club, not just anecdotally, but be able to measure it effectively. Because that's, you know, I love profiling. I think anybody who invests the time and money and energy in understanding their people is to be applauded. But it's absolutely useless if you're not going to do anything with that data. You have to measure it and you have to make the improvements. And I think clubs will embrace this when they see the difference.
I think the thing is, clubs are willing to. I guess one of the challenges will be is getting them to understand the benefits behind it, and because a lot of, especially independent gym owners, obviously Matt, you've been around a long time, but a lot of independent gym owners, especially now, won't have gone through probably our journey, gone through that corporate entity where we'll have done these sorts of things as part of team building and whatever. So they may not have actually been exposed to the huge benefits of what personality profiling is and how it can impact their business. So I think for the whole industry, it's a really exciting project because there's suddenly they're not only now learning how to coach and how to deliver success, but now they're understanding the personalities behind how that can work. And let's be honest, every great company, even if you look at Coca-Cola or any of those, their marketing is all designed around looking, okay, who are our demographics? How are we going to meet them? And then the ads are designed to hit those touch points.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do here is find those touch points and go, okay, now we know as a group what our members, because it may be as well, and I'm sure your system will do this. It might go, okay, 80% of your members are this type of person. Yeah. Now that's brilliant because then we can start designing programs around that majority. Whereas if you've got a 25% split over 4 personality types, for instance, then it's a little bit more difficult and we have to work the plan to suit that. But how powerful would that be if 80% of your members are all fun-loving, gregarious, outgoing, great,
absolutely,
all those sorts of things? That's what we're going to do.
That's a great point, Ryan. I think to extend that, once you know that, then you can start to target your Facebook messages and your social messages with a little bit more care and attention. Yeah. And if you wanted to switch that up and run, classes for a profile that you don't have or that it is thin in the ground, you can do that because you know what, and that's where we can help with the messaging. If your gym is 80%, as you say, full of fun-loving, relationship-building personality people, but you want to target natural introverts, that because they must be going somewhere else. We can show you how to do that. Or if you want more of what you've got already, we can show you how to do that as well. That's all part of the training.
That I love, because it really does go, okay, what have we got on? How do we attract either the same as what we've got already? Because that's our marketplace, that's our demographics. Sure. And we're not then trying to flick between, okay, we need to attract, because I don't know, you might not have seen any of my stuff, but I'm a big believer in trying to attract the 85% of the population, or 83 point whatever it is now, that don't come to gyms. It's still scary that only 16% of the population actually are members of gyms. So we've got this 85% out there. Now let's have a look and go, okay, are the people in the clubs very much similar profiles? Because if they are, then that gives us a look and go, actually, that 85% are going to be the other profiles. Let's see how we can attract them. So you can almost do an anti-member campaign to go, we're going after the people we don't have, and I think that's a fascinating idea from a sales perspective. Or
you could you could look at 4 different messages to hit 4 different energy types, and just feed the you can use your social platforms just to feed them out every few days, so that you're getting a spread of everything.
And how do you split the personalities, guys? What's the I guess like DISC is you're dominant, influential, steady, and cautious. How do you guys split the personality? Not necessarily the names, but what makes up the different
Well, you've got different energies. You've got 4 basic different energies, and the labels we've got them is we've got innovators, so people that like new stuff all the time. Then you've got the people that just like people, so we're trying to call it what it actually is. And then we've got supporting, which are people that like to help others and all that kind of stuff, and they're very very list orientated, so they like to tick and bash and do that kind of stuff. And then you've got the detail people, and they're always the hardest, more on the hardest people to reach, because they like so much detail. They like to read everything. They annoy the people on the other side because they're always asking about detail, and the other people have no detail. It's so that's the 4 things. So we've got innovators, people, supporting, and the detail people. And then we split it down into 8 different archetypes, so we can go narrow it down even further from there. But for the purposes of this, the 4 energies are the main thing.
And the purpose of going to 8 is to blend some of the energies, because sometimes you've got a blend of different energies. And I think just to drill just a little bit deeper into that, the point behind the 4 goes back to I Ching teachings from 5,000 years ago, and the basis of all psychology. Carl Gustav Jung is probably the most famous psychologist in the planet. That's where he took his teachings from, and that's where Belbin, Insights, DISC, all these profilers have come from. It's 4 of everything. So that's why they're designed in that way. It goes back 5,000 years.
I guess it's easier with 4 as well, because you've contained it into, although like you say, there's a mix and a blend in there. You've almost contained it to go, actually it's this or this, and that's how we can work it. It's
And the other thing is sometimes it's not as simple as just putting you in one of those 4 corners. Sometimes you're a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So the coaching that I do around this looks at what those numbers look like. And it might be that you're quite good on the detail, but actually you're a little bit people focused as well. That's unusual, but it happens. I've seen people like that. So when you're training and that, if you're doing a PT session with somebody and actually that they like the detail, but I'm going to get that with a little bit of personality. So I need to put a bit back of me back into that that we can bond a little bit better. That's all having that, as you said earlier, Ryan, that's all having that prior knowledge before you go in. It's really powerful stuff.
And it's also important, because I guess what you'll do is train the team, and then obviously, because the one big thing we all know in any hospitality, it's all about the mirroring of those personalities. So if I know I'm a high I, going back to DISC, I know that if I meet a people person who isn't that extravagant but likes people, likes conversation, I need to adapt I probably need to bring my tone down a little bit. I need to bring the speed at which I talk down a little bit. I don't know whether I ever told Matt, I think I said this in the sales training. I had an amazing example of this when I worked at Holmes Place, and we were all trained on DISC, so we sort of knew to the spot. I signed up a member who was very much like me. She used to come in with bounce off, giggle, laugh, you know what I mean? It was really exciting. About 3 months after she joined, she brought her sister in. So I got told, Sally's waiting over there with her sister to join. So I've walked over expecting exactly the same personality. I've never seen someone go into the fetal position in a chair like she did. I must have frightened the life. I walked over, hi, how you doing? Really, really Gary's like a sister. And she's literally gone like that. And luckily we had the train, and I recognised straight away. I was like, oh, okay. And I slowed everything down. But I'd never seen someone react so negatively. And it was a positive conversation. It's not as if I was being angry or anything like that. But literally she shrunk in the seat. And I was like, shit. Wow, this is how powerful,
good catch,
potentially this stuff can be. And I was just like, okay, we changed it. Obviously she joined, but when her sister came in, it was very much, oh, hi, how you doing? When Sally came in, it was, hey, how you doing? How's your day?
But if you'd known that beforehand, you wouldn't have done that in the first place, would you?
Absolutely. You'd have gone over with a different. Now, I was trying to claw that back because I'd obviously gone too far. She didn't like it. But like I say, it's probably the only time I've ever seen someone physically respond in that way. But
what's interesting with people like that, once trust is broken, you've got a mountain to climb to try and get that back. My wife's not dissimilar to Matt's wife in that respect. you break trust like that, and you go in like that, you're pretty much done.
Yeah.
You've got an awful lot of work to do over quite a long period to get yourself back to an even keel again. So knowing that beforehand is quite important.
And we know it takes 30 seconds, depending on what you read, 30 seconds, 5 minutes, whatever, to know whether you like someone or not. That's quite instant. And a lot of this is based around that communication and that how you interact with somebody, because you might be a lovely person. If they don't like how you've interacted with them, that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
100%. Absolutely.
Trust can be made or broken in those moments.
And that's where good salespeople come in. If you listen to anyone like Jordan Belfort or any of those types of people, it's all they don't stick to their personality is almost irrelevant in that hospitality situation. It's how they adapt to that other person's personality. And like you say, if you've got this ammunition right from the outset, you walk in as a PT or a gym instructor, you know that's what they like, that's how they like to communicate, that's the style they like to train. The power of that to get instant rapport is amazing.
Yeah, and it's about removing friction points as well as much as you possibly can, so you make it as smooth as possible. That's buzzwords that they're all used at the moment, is friction points, getting away from that and just making it a nice, smooth, easy process. And coming back to the gym just gets me. That's what we need people to be saying. That's why they'll stay longer.
Absolutely. In terms of where you guys are at with this, and I know you've been working on it for a while. Are we almost there? What's the launch plan? How can people get hold of this?
Right. So we are close. We're very, very close. We've been working on it for a long, long time. We in fact started before lockdown.
Wow.
That's how long we've been thinking and knocking this around. And that kind of knocked us for a bit. We picked it up again last year. We're just doing some programming now on the actual software side of things. We've got a guy working on that, and I don't want to really put a date on it as yet, because the last time I put a date on it, I'm about 5 years later. So I don't want to do that, but we're very excited. We've done trial bits in the club, in the gym here, paper based. So we've sat down there working it all out. What we obviously need is some software that will do all that for us.
Yeah.
And we're quite close to that.
What's a little bit different this time is we built our own model from scratch.
I was going to say it's not as if you guys have just gone and taken someone else's and gone, right, we're going to factor this. Really is brand new.
That was the original plan, was to use an already existing model, but we decided that we needed control of that process ourselves. If whatever model we used was just didn't want to partner anymore for any reason, then we don't have a business, and we, that's not a risk we were prepared to take. So we have to be able to represent our customers in the right way and make sure they can rely on us. So that's why we developed our own model.
I think the great thing is as well, the fact that you guys have developed your own model means it can move on. So obviously we're starting with 10 questions. It may find once you've done obviously all the beta testing and we've got it out into a number of different clubs, you might find certain things start popping up and you go, actually, this section we need more detail. Or it might be for a standard member, it's X. For a personal training client, it's something else. You know what I mean? So it gives you guys that ability to adapt and sort of learn and go, actually, yes, it gives us, but we'd like more detail, and this is how we're going to do it. So at least you've got that control over that element as well.
And we wanted something that would work with any size club as well. So when we build it, we want it to be able to, a little independent like me, or it could go into a big club, or even a low cost operator that needs to understand more about the digital journey that someone's going on.
Yeah.
So that they can do that. I
think that's a good point. Initially, we were looking at boutiques for this, with gyms that would put a really high value on customer service. And I think that the more we chewed this over, the more we started to realize, actually, this is just as relevant for low cost gyms, because if it makes a difference to people attending and makes a difference to the bottom line, they're going to use it.
Let's be honest, this should have been for decades now a standard part of what we do. Because let's be honest, we do loads of questions on what do they want to achieve, but actually we don't take the time before we start with them to actually understand the person.
No.
And that's quite frightening. And I can sort of understand now how this wellness stuff is starting to creep into because it's about understanding the person. But same again, you can't do anything with that unless you understand their motivations, unless you understand how they like to be treated, how they like to communicate. It's almost irrelevant, because we all know when everyone's doing. I don't like a PT who's going to stand there and shout at me. I've got no desire for that. I really don't. I'd be no good in the army, Gaz. It just I see that as authority, and I do things my own way. But I do like someone to train me and push my boundaries. So it's a matter of sort of going, well, okay, how do we get there without me going, come on, which really I switch off when someone does that.
I'm used to that. I get that at home.
Well, I'm divorced, so I don't get that.
But it's not about guessing the motivation of someone. It's about profiling it, and so the company actually, the club understands them at a deeper level, and again, from the members' perspective, they don't need to know any of this stuff. All they want to know is, am I getting fitter? Am I enjoying myself? And is this worth my time? And does this club appreciate me? That's what they want.
And it's also to understand, Matt, sorry, Gaz, people are different. Their personality can change depending on the circumstances, time of life. I remember when I was a manager in a business, obviously my personality was very much more shifted towards that D-style personality. So I was directing traffic. So naturally, that the fact I don't have staff anymore, my personality in terms of how I change is different. So how I work with Matt is very different to how I would have managed a club. The knowledge is still the same, but how we interact is different. And I think that's important to understand as well. So when they're filling this out, and I can imagine this takes into account, it isn't how they are at work, it's how they like to train, how they like to interact on a different level. So that can be fascinating as well. I mean, you got the underlying personality, but different situations can bring out a different style of communication.
Yeah, 100%. You've got it.
Yeah. I thought you were going to go into pendulums then for a minute there, Gaz, because you quite often go into the pendulum thing where people can be one kind of person, and then they get the end of what they're doing, and then they can have a complete personality flip. Gaz did a training session with someone we won't mention, and he said this happened in here. She was lovely, then all of a sudden not. And it was all about running out of the type of energy that she'd been using all day. She'd run out of it. So then she flipped to the other one. And that's where she went to recover. So for me, for example, I can tend to be slightly introverted. I know it doesn't seem like that, but I can be. I can go within myself. So if I'm run out of people energy, I need to go and be on my own. I need to go and find some time just to be.
My daughter's like that.
Yeah.
She will come home from school, go straight to her bedroom. You won't see her for an hour. Yep. And we were like, oh, is she okay? She had a bad day. And then we worked out over time. Obviously, we didn't have the profiling to be able to do it, but we worked out over time that she was recovering her battery.
She's recharging. That's exactly the right language to use there, Ryan. She's recharging. So if she's been using a certain energy all day, that just eventually disappears. And it's a little bit like when you feel the clouds coming in and you think, I need to get out of here and do something different. That's your brain saying, I need to move to a different area of the compass, the octagon. I'm a high D, for example, but at some point that energy is going to disappear. That number is going to dwindle, and I need to go somewhere else. So I'm a relationship builder. I'm a people guy. But if I've been training people all day long, at some point, I'm going to need to have a little bit of me time and step away to recharge that, especially if I'm training, a load of accountants or people not like me, because that drains my energy. Yeah. So and you can be anywhere, and we've built our model in an octagon. You can be anywhere in that octagon you choose to be if you're prepared to pay the price, and the price is in time or in energy, because it does get sapped.
That's a really interesting one as well, because then it comes down to, you can really start nailing it down and going, actually we need to consider when we're training somebody, because it might be after work, might not be the right. They've got a people job, they've been worn out all day, then we're going to train them at night and we're going to be really gregarious and outgoing as well, because we think they are. In actual fact, their battery's about this thin, and we're giving them all the energy, and it's just not what they want. So I guess you can even take it as far as that if you really wanted to, and you really got to grips with that person and who they were and how they responded to various things. You could take it to that level in terms of working out the best time for them to train. So it may be first thing in the morning is better for them because the battery's full.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, exactly right.
And that relates to personality profile as well, 100%.
Wow. Well, I'm really looking forward to this. I love personality stuff. I loved it when we did it with our sales training, and I've kept it going. I put it into my sales training. Funny enough, Matt, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's fascinating, even on a basic level. But the great thing with this is, not only do they get a real understanding of the different sort of personality profiles you guys are doing, and they understand it, but then they can take the practical use of that into their businesses. And I think this has got grounds for not just fitness clubs, but PTs, boot camps, even down to therapists, stuff like that. I think anywhere where you're dealing with either hospitality or individuals, this sort of model is perfect for. And like you say, it's not intrusive, which is the great thing. It's 10 questions, happy days. It's really easy to do.
Sounds like you got it.
No, exactly, and I hope everybody listening as well sees it for that, because I'd like people to reach out to you guys. I know we're a few months away or whatever before it's ready to go, but I think it'd be great for people to reach out and sort of go, I'd like to learn more, because getting those early adopters on board and that proof of concept helps us drive this forward massively. Yeah, I think you guys have got something pretty clever here that can massively impact the people's business.
Perfect.
Thanks, Ryan.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Now, if anybody does want to get in touch with Matt or Gaz, I'll put their details at the front and the end of the podcast. You'll have seen them, or you can find these guys on Facebook or LinkedIn.
Yeah, both of those.
Yeah, exactly. And I think having this conversation and keeping this conversation going now, I think is really important. So I'm looking forward to the launch. I really appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for coming on. And like I say, if anyone got any questions, give you a shout.
Thanks ever so much, Ryan. Cheers.
Pleasure. Thanks, Ryan.
Let me just